Welcome to another episode of the Growth Focus podcast, where we bring leaders from all across the globe to share their time, their expertise, and their insights with us when it comes to growing businesses. My name is Gary Lafferty, your host, and also the CEO and founder of the Growth Focus Partnerships, where we take the authority voices that our clients have in tech and turn them into pipeline. So, Monica, it's lovely to have you here on this episode. Why don't you start by introducing yourselves? And what I mean by that is if someone asks you, what is it that you do at a dinner party? How would you explain it in plain English without all the jargon?
Could we have a glass of wine while we do? No, okay, I'll do
Of
it without the
course.
wine. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So I'm Monica Swanson, and I'm the founder of Monroe Business Solutions. But what I actually do is offer fractional technology leadership to companies that are about 25 employees up to 250. Might pivot on that. But in general, those companies have the CEO, the CFO that have been owning their technology, and the technology is getting more complex, it's outgrowing them, and they're usually dealing with like, oh, this vendor product isn't working. I don't have good data for decisions. I'm not getting ROI. Why am I spending too much money on IT, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? It's because they don't have an IT strategy for their business. Of course, they're not saying that, but it's more of your IT and your business is not aligned, and how can I help them get their business aligned with their technology so their tech's working for them instead of slowing them down?
What a great way to describe that. Well, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that and what is it
Yeah.
you do a little bit later on. But before we do that, why don't you take us back a little bit? What was the moment where you thought, this is a great idea and this is what I should be doing?
Yeah. There's kind of two moments I'd say that weave together over time. So I've spent my entire career prior to this was in large global corporate. So two very large global organizations, 50,000 employees, 160,000 employees. So love that experience, but it can also be very consuming. You start living with your phone in your hand in some of these large global corporate. So there was a time, a 13-year period actually during there, where I was part-time when my kiddos were little. And that was a big decision for our family, but it ended up giving us, as a family, a really good balance. So, it was great. And then I went full-time and, after they were older. So pocket that thought. The second is now progressing with my career, and now my kiddos are out on their own. And I'm working and then I'm also working. And so my husband had a bit more balance, and he's like, when are you going to be done? And he was implying for the day, but I'm also like, yeah, when am I going to be done with this crazy? So I started reflecting, like, I'm not done, but I don't want to continue this way. When was I a little bit more content? And so I thought back on that part time. So it actually started to be a little bit more about me of like, how can I have better balance, but yet I don't want to be done. So I had that thought. And then, like you hear of like a new movie, a new book, some new restaurant, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about it. That's what happened to me with fractional. So I was like, oh, I'm getting into fractional. I'm working with a fractional. I'm like, what is this? So I peeled back that layer and I was able to put all that together of that's what I can do. I'd love to take my experience and help more, these mid-sized companies that don't typically have access to that talent. But if they can hire someone like me at 20%, right? They're getting a ton of help, but they're only paying 20% of a salary. I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. So that's what got me all fired up and into that world.
Well, we could tell that just from your face, Monica, that you got real passion for it. You know, it's a really interesting thing because people, we've talked about fractional before on this show, and we've talked about it with my clients as well. And one of the main misconceptions about fractional is how do people tell the difference between professional fractional consultants and those who are just in between jobs? What should someone be
Yes.
looking out for when they're looking for a professional fractional consult?
Well, I think first off, if you meet somebody, just point blank ask them, are you
Mm.
pursuing a full-time role, or is fractional, your long term? Because most people are going to be honest, or they'll see it, they'll might freeze like, but if they're pursuing full-time, I think you'll be able to tell. I think it's also looking at their presence on LinkedIn, on social media. Do they have a company site? Do they have a company email? So that also builds some of that authenticity. Are they building up their profile, or are they building up their company business and profile? Who are you representing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you see them really concentrating on building their brand as a whole,
Yeah.
as a fractional, as opposed to, oh, this is a little bit what I do, and I can do this and I can do that. So let's talk about the type of companies that work best for you. What kind of companies tend to be the best fit for you right now, Monica? And what problems usually show up first when they first reach out to you?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm offering fractional technology, but I've also discovered that my ideal client is probably more comfortable, more familiar when it comes to fractional finance, fractional HR, possibly fractional sales, but I don't think they've wrapped their head around a fractional technology opportunity for their company. Quite often, those companies, they might say, I have an IT vendor and it's a managed service provider, which provides, I'm not sure if you or your audience is familiar with an MSP, but it's really kind of that base infrastructure of your email, your network file store, all that. And I'm looking at
Mhm.
everything on top of that. So there's education on that side as well. So I feel like I've done large global corporate. I can do that, but I'm really focusing on that mid-size company, which I'm referring to maybe 25 employees up, where the CFO, the CEO possibly, they have own technology. Like you're starting a business, right? You're doing it all, right? And then you might have somebody help you with HR and finance, whatever, but that leader is still owning the tech and now it's outgrowing them. They are frustrated. They don't want to do it. They don't have the time. Probably they're also like, and I don't have the experience. Most of the people I talk to are like, it scares me when people say I'm the IT person in the company. I'm not IT. So I think that's where they recognize I'm wearing that hat. I don't want to. But to the second part of your question, like what do they encounter? I think they are in the weeds with what they're dealing with, right? So I can peel back and it's really you need an IT strategy, but nobody's asking for an IT strategy. But what they're dealing with is I don't have good data for decision making. I don't know why I've got Microsoft and Google. I don't know why I have both of those and I don't know which one to choose. I, have an old finance system. I think we've outgrown it. Our CRM is too manual. Our HR, they're dealing with this, that, and this, that, so many different things. I'm like, I don't have time. So ignore it. The next month, same self conversation. That's where I can step in. Do they have a burning issue? Like, I need to upgrade our finance system. I don't know what to do. Please help me with that. Or is it more of, I've got all these random puzzle pieces and I don't know what to do. I can help with that as well. Like, give them some guidance on how to prioritize, the various pieces based on what they're
Well,
trying to
yeah,
accomplish.
that sounds like you're always walking into a messy situation. I think that's what you can bring to the table, isn't it? You tend to walk into a messy situation. They've got too many tools, unclear ownership, not sure what's talking to each other, what is
Yeah.
needed. What is the first thing you look for, yeah, to help people say, right, let's bring some balance, or as you would say, some form of alignment to it. But before we can get to alignment, we need to just settle the foundations a little bit. What is the first thing you tend to look for in situations like that?
Well, what are they trying to accomplish in the next 2 years? Right?
Mm.
Because they might pull me in and say this CRM is a mess. So but what are they trying to accomplish in the next 2 years? In the next 2 years, maybe it is, doubling their product line. So listen, pull back the layers. Maybe it's actually, an ERP. Maybe it's just connecting their existing system. So yeah, you could listen to what they're saying of I need help with this, but if you ask the right questions and kind of bring to light, more of where they're trying to go, versus just solving today's problem, where are they trying to go to make sure they're successful. So I think that's the first key.
Yeah, I think I suppose one of the issues, and looking back into my companies and looking about see how other people run theirs, it's almost like, okay, well, here's an issue, let's bring on this tool. And okay, here's another issue, let's bring on this tool. And before you know it, you've just got a knitting basket of everything in there, and you don't know which bit you should be
Yeah,
using now.
yeah,
But you just know you need to streamline it. You just have
yeah,
to streamline it because there's so
yeah,
much, especially as the more we bring into AI, and we're going to talk about AI a little bit later on in this
okay,
episode. But it very much is a case of saying, right, okay, what needs to be structurally clear moving into our long-term goal of 12 months, 24 months. And I think
yeah.
this is a great way to do it. So if you were to give, what would you say is the quickest win that you tend to drive early? that helps your clients?
How to choose the right vendor product for you. I think it happens over and over and over of like, again, let's just go with the CRM. Like I need a CRM, or I need to upgrade our CRM. This, our old Excel spreadsheet's not working. And they ask, it makes sense, right? Like they ask their neighbor, their, other colleagues that they work with or something, and oh, well, they're using ABC product. I should look at ABC product. Maybe, but are you trying to solve their problem or your problem, right? So I have, kind of standard methods that let's document your requirements. Let's prioritize those. Let's find the right product for you, not just for today, but for tomorrow. But I think that's huge, and it's missed so much because then you choose the wrong product. Then even if you implement it, you're like, oh, this isn't working. Oh yeah.
We wonder why it doesn't. So, can you tell us a story about a client situation you're particularly proud of, Monica? What was broken, what was at stake, and then what changed because of the work you managed to do?
Yeah, yeah, let me tell you a story. This is actually kind of a couple of client stories, but it's common, right? So you can kind of weave it together. So it's numerous, clients kind of woven together. And that is just for this particular case, it was HR technology. Because again, companies start and you're doing things manual and you're continuing, and they just continue down this path. And the head of HR, whoever's leading that, was doing everything manual. So these were some a little bit more manufacturing or service industries. So they had a lot of time tracking. So then you acquire another business, whatever. You've got numerous time tracking, and they were spending so much manual time just producing payroll. Payroll is not a strategic initiative, right? I mean, that's table stakes, right? But you are wasting so much time on that. So they're thinking, I don't have time to fix this. And I help them understand how much time and money you are already spending on this. And it's also then delivering it at an okay level where you could improve this. So helping them with like, okay, so if you're an HR person and you're spending, I don't know, 2 days every pay period in order to get payroll done correctly. Well, what's your salary? Let's calculate that out. That's how much payroll is costing you. Plus, you're now going to supervisors. How much are they're spending, hour or two chasing time tracking. You start putting all of that information together, and then you show them, this is how much time you're spending on payroll. And again, that's not strategic. So they're thinking they don't have time or money. You do. You have all this time, and you're already wasting all of this money on payroll to produce. So that, I think, was really eye-opening for people. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, we need to get an HR technology system that automates this for us. Like, yeah, absolutely. And then that opens their brain to how much are we spending in other manual processes. Our sales team has to, copy and paste over and over. That's not fun for anyone.
Do you know what? And this is, we talk, I think I say this phrase every single day, probably for the last 20 odd years. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And if we don't know what we don't know, we don't even know what questions to ask,
Yes.
get us to where we need to know, because we don't actually know what it is. So that being said, Monica, it sounds like to me that, it's almost revelations working with you. It's like you think, oh, I didn't know that. It's a change of idea and a change of belief. What are the telltale signs, that you can probably help the listeners or the viewers of this that make them think, oh, I might have an issue here?
Yeah, well, if you don't know your full list of technology systems, if you don't know how much you're really spending on them, if you know you're spending money on systems that you're not fully leveraging, if you have manual processes, if you are lacking data for decision making, any of those can be fixed. It's just like I said, earlier, it's like they're in the weeds with the problems, and that makes sense. Like if you go to the doctor and your back hurts, and you're like, well, should I use heat? Should I use ice? Should I take meds? Should I stretch? Should I not stretch? Should I give it, lay low in order to let this heal? And then you find out it's actually a messed up knee and you're walking wrong and that's what hurt your back. Like again, you don't know, but don't be scared to ask questions, right? Just to have those conversations. And I think most people as well, like, well, let's say we discovered it's a security issue. I don't know. I'm like, well, I'm not a security expert, but now we've uncovered it. So hopefully I would still have helped you. Now let me point you in the direction of a security person that could help you, or, process person. So yeah, I think those people that are open to having those conversations of, I don't know, don't be scared of that. And, lean into the I don't know and have people help you figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that's a great piece of advice, Monica. And talking about I don't know and being honest with what I don't know, AI. AI is everywhere. It's a great segue into this question because obviously with AI, all of us are in tech in some form or another, and AI very much is at the forefront of this. If not the
Yeah.
forefront, it's definitely on the edges of it. And whichever way we look, there's AI. How has AI integrated into what you do and into what your clients now use?
I'm finding people are very intrigued with AI, but they don't know what to do. So
Mm.
everyone's kind of doing the baby steps of getting some AI and using it more for personal, like, oh, it helps me write my emails, or and that's great, to get started, right? It starts taking away the scary. Um, I'm helping people understand a little bit more about opportunities, like as I'm doing the initial, like kind of diagnostics and discovery, and you find out again, like they spend how much time on whatever. There was a manufacturing organization that was spending so much time on production scheduling because, that person had the experience, and then there's allergens with the food, and there, so much complication. And I just pointed out, these are if you can document some of these processes, this is where AI can help you. But can you document the process? Like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? And that was kind of a light bulb for them because they had been asking, like, should we be doing AI? But I feel like everyone's very intrigued with it. The industry is also giving some good information though of like there's been a little bit of overpromise. It's still, a lot of time to invest. It's not magic, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's not, and we say this a lot. I'm glad you said that, Monica, because it isn't the magic bullet. It's not the things that just bring it in and poof, everything gets sorted. It gets
Yeah.
very much into what you give it. Good in, good out, bad in,
Yeah.
bad out. And if you're not giving the right data to it, it doesn't matter. It's just almost like we say this. It's like going from a bicycle to an electric bike. You just crash faster. If you can't control a bike, you're just going
Yeah.
to crash faster with it. So that being said, if someone was listening and listening to this episode, Monica, and they thought, this sounds like us, I have a mess. I don't know what the mess is. What is the first conversation you would want to have with them? And what should they really bring to the conversation that would actually be useful for you or for them?
Yeah, I'd start with a 15-minute consult, right? Because I don't want to waste anyone's time, theirs or mine, right? So, initial consult just to help understand, what is their pain point, and even if they can't fully articulate it, it's that conversation, right? Let me ask some questions, and you tell me, and then we can start peeling back the layer. So, if you know you have a pain point, you don't have to have it fully defined. Like again, my back hurts and you find out it's actually your knee. But if you're honest enough of like, I need to admit I'm having back pain. It's been happening for a month, that's come to the table with that and then be open-minded to have that conversation with your doctor, right? Versus I'm not going to go to the doctor. I'll figure this out on my own. And then I will just have that back and forth conversation. And then if I find out you are really looking for, an ABC specialist or something, I know somebody, let me give you some leads, but it's not me. I'm not going to get myself stuck in work that I'm not going to succeed at, that I can't help. So I think that first 15-minute conversation, just to get to know each other and peel back the layers. What is it?
Absolutely. Fantastic method to do it. So if there was one thing this is a bit of a loaded question as your last question, Monica.
Okay.
If there was one piece of advice that you would give founders or leaders who are listening to this about their situation, they're busy in the weeds, as you say, they're growing their company. If there's one piece of advice that would say, look, this is hindering your growth and you should be looking at this, if you haven't looked at it, you should be. What would that piece of advice be and why?
Good question. Well, I think it's quite often look in the mirror. Are you inhibiting your own growth? Right? Because we all, are real go-getters, right? Otherwise you wouldn't start a business. You wouldn't be doing all this, but you have to be real as well of what are you good at and what would be better served by giving it to somebody else, right? Nobody is excellent at everything. Yeah. So if you were going to build the dream team, who all would you pull in? Like for me, I'm like, oh, I'd pull in somebody for marketing and I'd pull in someone to manage my finances. That's not what I want to do. That's the type of things I should outsource. If there's a leader that started some great, business on food, food production or restaurants or I don't know, whatever. Is IT really your core competency? But at some point it might be slowing you down, or finance or sales. Get the help. It makes me so sad when you see these ambitious people. They're the ones that are causing their own problem because they aren't willing to admit, um, I'm stumbling here, or I would actually be better off getting some help. So that's tough when you see the leader actually bringing their company down.
Yeah, they're just like they're just drowning in their own hand, aren't they? Really, they're just pulling themselves deeper, deeper into the pool. And I think that's a fantastic piece of advice and insight there, Monica. So, if people wanted to get hold of you, potentially talk with you about this, or maybe have that 15-minute conversation with you, what's the best place to and way to get hold of you?
Yeah, well, Monica Swanson, and my business is Monroe Business Solutions, so I should be easy to find on LinkedIn, on my website. I also have a presence on social media like Instagram and all that. But hopefully, if somebody just does that search on Monica Swanson, Monroe Business Solutions, they should find me. And I have a contact on my website. I've got some articles listed so they can, kind of dig around a little bit more and read and think about, yeah, this what my problems that she's talking about them. I think she can help me. I'd love to have those conversations.
I'll make sure the team puts the your contact details on the show notes as well, so it's easy for them to just click straight
Stellar.
into.
Yeah.
Monica, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights. It's been most uplifting.
Thank you. Fun chatting with you.
You too. Thank you.